When we lead with love, we carry it 24/7. And when we teach with love, we make sure our students don't forget it. To be black and to educate is to be superhero without the applause. It's to show up and show out no matter the cause. It's to play for the students no matter the winner. Because when we work arm in arm, the impact is bigger. Welcome to Untenured Podcast, where educators have a space to speak their truth. So tap in and listen to the very voices that mold our youth.
So welcome officially to episode 1 of Untenured. I'm your host, Yaya, here with none other, straight out from Philly. He pulled up to 37 North Street. We have Mr. Woodson in the building. Shout out to Philly. Thank you for signing up to be a part of this experience, to come share your truth, because here at Sadie's house, speaking your truth can never go left because it's your right. And so I'm really, really hyped to be here with this dope educator, not just for what he stands for 10 toes down, but what he lives and breathes by way of his journey and experience in education. And so welcome, Mr. Woodson.
I appreciate
How formal. Yes, blessings, welcome. All right, so I just want to kick off. Give the people a little sense of where you're from. I know right now you're in Philly serving, is it Excelsior Academy?
Excelsior School of Philadelphia.
Okay, Excelsior School of Philadelphia. Tell us a little bit about your journey to that location. And, are you originally from Philly?
Yeah, so I am originally from Philly, the uptown section to be exact. Being from Philly, like, we take pride in, like, being from certain sections or, like, wherever you're from. So yeah, I'm definitely from the uptown section of Philadelphia. I'm 29. I've been in education. Hopefully this year, once the next school year starts, it'll be 10 years.
Okay, 10 years strong.
Decade, yeah. I originally started my education journey at Young Scholars Kennington Charter School in North Philadelphia, like behind Temple University.
Okay, yes.
But they lost their charter like right after that school year. Mm-hmm. So after that academic year, myself and a couple of like my teacher friends that worked there, we was like looking for other jobs at different like schools and stuff. And I landed in Camden at Kit Woodhill Middle School. Okay. And I was there for about 7-8 years, I think, 7 years. And I unfortunately got terminated for like something that was like speculation for real. Okay. And I was just like, I told myself and like a couple of my homies, like right after I got fired, like I'm gonna just leave everything in like God's hands, and wherever the chips fall, they fall. Yeah. And one of my like brothers, his mom owns a private school. Okay. Yes. Excelsior School of Philadelphia, one of the only minority-owned Black schools in Philadelphia. Private schools in Philadelphia, and she gave me opportunity, and I've been there for this past school year. Ever since then. And you know what I love about that is, turning lemons into lemonade, right? Not allowing that experience, because, for Black people, speculation is all you need to go through with something that may not be just or equitable. And so we'll get into that because a lot of the theme of what I want to talk to you about is connected to what really sparked me to reach out to you on IG. You made a video called I'm a Young, Fly, Dope Black Male Educator. And I might be getting the adjectives in the wrong order, but you know the vibe. No, for sure. And so when I saw that, I just was like, come on. And the things you were saying, they were so simplistic, but they cut so deep, because I know for a fact what you were speaking to is the testimony of many Black men. And one of the things, I don't want to misquote a brother, one of the things you said in that post is a lot of people still don't believe in the power you possess as a Black male. From the people who employ you, who try to keep you in a box, they don't understand your value, or they turn a blind eye to it. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration for that video. And if you want to point out maybe one or two, because I got two burning on the brain that I'm like, you got to tell me that story. Okay. So, I started my like content creator journey, I want to say like a year ago. Okay. Around Ramadan of last year. And that was around like, I want to say like April, around April, May. And ever since then, like I've been like, I felt empowered to continue to make videos, because a lot of people, like once one of my first videos like just went viral, a lot of people was reaching out saying like, yo, I like the way you interact with your children. I like the way like your presence is felt in your classroom and things of that sort. So ever since then, I've been like making sure that I continue to like give people what they like were saying that they like. Yeah. And what inspired that video was, I personally feel like I brought the trend back. Okay. Because it was like Truman I want to say like a couple months ago, and it died.
And then you revitalized it.
And then I made my video.
Brother, own it. You
I'm
brought
serious,
it back. Put it back on the
serious. I was like, yo, let me do this, John, because I've been meaning to do it for like a couple weeks before I dropped the video. I was telling like some of my coworkers that I'm like real close with, Miss S and Mr. Nate. I'm like, yo, I gotta do this video.
Yeah.
So we finally like recorded it, and I was like, yo, this is like another video that I know that would get attention.
Yeah.
Like I do a lot of my videos for like the people.
Yeah.
But I also know at the same time what it like click and sometimes it wouldn't. So after I did that, John, a lot of now people in like a lot of companies and corporations are now trying to bring the trend back, like the of course Blink. And I'm like, yo, I know for a fact my video is the one that sparked it, because I got over, I think 500,000 views on both platforms through the video.
I'm sorry, one more time for people who struggle with place value. This brother said 500,000.
Yeah,
500,000
between two platforms, and Instagram and TikTok. And I'm like, I know people seen it. They had to see it. And I also had like another video that went like a little viral that had 50 million views. Like people like Young Barbecue seen it. Too Rare, the rapper from Philadelphia, he got like a lot of popular music that's like popular on TikTok now.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have seen it, and now a lot of people are making the trend again a thing.
Yeah.
So that's what really like inspired it, and I knew the stuff that I was saying would resonate with a lot of other people.
Yeah. And
also it made sense given the fact that I'm an educator and I get fly, and those are like two things that are like prevalent in like my social media footprint.
And we're gonna talk about getting fly and your educator fit, because when I had another guest that you're our first guest in Sadie's, by the way, and you know in Sadie's we love first, so he's the first to pull up to do Untenured in the face. So we will forever remember you. He's also the first brother to bring back that trend. So a lot of firsts going on. But when I did my first StreamYard virtual interview for Untenured podcast, she talked about her professor trip. So I want to circle back to that concept of like your dopeness in your fit connected to what people think educators should look like. But I also want to give you the opportunity to address some of the ones you said in that IG film. So the biggest one for me was, of course, people hate on how I build relationships with kids, right? Because sometimes what we don't understand, we either create fear around it or we create a deficit narrative, right? And so it's clear that you believe deeply in building relationships. And you talk about taking joyful time with young people and intentionally connecting with them. In some of his reels, you'll see him doing the gritty. Love it. You'll see him doing shadow box challenge. You'll see him doing, now I don't know how many you have, but it feels like upwards of 50 different handshakes, y'all. Like on the spot. A young person, an educator, a staff will walk up to him and just on the spot, they have their own personalized handshake. And how many handshakes do you think you know about?
It's over 15.
Okay. All right. And this is on the spot. They can just be coming around the corner and he busted out on the spot. So no pressure, but maybe we could make a little handshake. So when you come back next time, I'll see if I remember. But talk to me about that. Like, why do you think people hate on young, dope, Black, fly male educators and hate on how they build relationships?
Over the years, I've learned that people are afraid, or people don't like what they don't understand. So people don't understand half of the time. And if I could be like blunt and frank, like white people don't generally understand the relationships that I have with Black and brown students. I mean, like they are me. I tell them all the time. And how I wanted to relate and connect with a teacher, I try to make sure I am that for the kids that now that I serve. Because I don't remember none of my teachers for real. And I did have a lot of like female teachers. And I had some Black female teachers, but I had majority white female teachers. And I didn't really connect or click with them. Like I don't even remember half their names, but I do remember the Black female teachers' names, like Miss Carter, my 5th grade teacher. And she was only my 5th grade teacher because my white female teacher went on maternity leave for the entire year.
She was a replacement.
So she was a replacement, and she made sure like we was cool. Like she gave us the motherly feel. She made sure that we was on top of our work. And this is in the 5th grade. And in the 4th grade, I had Miss Breathwaite, another female Black woman. So like I only remember those two people.
And you know what's crazy? I'm not capping y'all. This brother did not see the questions beforehand, but one of my questions was going to be, at what grade did you have your first Black teacher? Do you remember their name? So you just called them out, 4th and 5th grade, right?
Yep.
And that was the only time from K through 12 that you had a Black or brown teacher, you would say?
That I can remember.
Yeah.
Because I had a teacher named Ms. Williams, and she didn't teach me directly, but we ended up being co-workers later on down the line.
Okay.
And she like is my mentor.
Yeah.
But she wasn't like my teacher.
Yeah.
But I don't think I had a Black teacher in high school.
Wow.
And I can't remember a Black teacher in middle school either.
Come on. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll circle back to that, but I want to go back to something you said, which I think is something I want to really make sure that translates through this experience, right? We were talking about why people hate on dope, young, fly Black male educators and how they build relationships. And you're saying that if you could be blunt, it's often white people that don't understand out of fear. But also, I would argue that there's a component of it that has to do with their awareness at times of their inability to replicate, right?
Yes.
Because if it's something they can do too, then I don't hate on it. I just do it and act like I created it or I originated it. You know what I mean?
But I think that's some of the things that they don't like, right? When it's like not their idea too, because anybody could do a handshake.
Yeah.
Handshakes aren't just for the Black community. Handshakes are just for like
not these handshakes, bro. Not these handshakes.
Yeah, the handshake that I got. Yeah, but like a lot of like LeBron James, he's like my inspiration through like the handshakes and stuff. And like I see him have handshakes with multiple races because a lot of his teammates are like his basketball teams have been really diverse.
Yeah.
So he doesn't just have handshakes with Tristan Thompson or Kyrie Irving. He has handshakes with Kevin Love. He has handshakes with other people. So he was the inspiration behind the handshakes, and I always told myself like he is one of my like the icons to me. And I think like handshakes is one of the coolest things you can do with somebody.
Yeah.
Like it's just so thorough to me to have a handshake with another human being.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to make sure that that thoroughness lived out through my relationships with my students. And I think the teachers that did not like it just really didn't like it because this is another thing that Mr. Woodson is doing at a high level. Yeah. This is another thing that Mr. Woodson is doing that we didn't think about.
And he started
it. This is another thing that Mr. Woodson is like having like success in, and like more and more kids are now wanting to do it and they not want to come and do it with me.
Hello. So they in their ego.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to you being in your ego, whoever you are. Get over it and get on this wave. And then the other thing too that you just sparked me about is the power of handshakes to not only transcend race and ethnicity, but when I think about things like music, like mathematics, it's universal, right? It can really step over whatever lines that society or people create to create barriers. A handshake is something that can be very universal. Yeah. So shout out to you, not only bringing back the trend through IG, but starting a wave of handshakes. I started it. We might have to do an untenured uncut where you see what our handshake is. We'll keep the audience in tune. It won't happen on this episode, but trust me, before he leaves, we're going to figure one out. All right, so let's switch over to educator fits, because when we talk about things that they hate on, your tag is, I'm a young, dope, fly Black male educator. And I know from watching some of your reels that how you dress for work is not only intentional, but it's you authentically. For sure. But it does create, for those of us who subscribe to those very Eurocentric and very, what should I say, American views of what an educator looks like, it probably throws them off. And I'm all for throwing off because I used to throw on hoops with a blazer or a message to a blazer. But talk to me a little bit about what inspires your educator fit and why you go so hard to disrupt the narrative of button downs and flats as the professional teacher. Yeah, so I really disrupt. I try to do that intentionally because I'm a huge believer in the opposite of the status quo. Like I hate that we have to go about things a specific way that somebody told us that it has to be this way. Yeah. Because everybody has their own walk of life. And I feel like if you stay yourself, then you'll have the best experience throughout your time here on earth. And actually, one of my principals before, he like put this like idea into like my head about it doesn't matter how you, it doesn't matter how you dress. Because there's no statistics or like no data that proves like kids will learn more if you dress a certain way. Yeah. And I said, yo, that's actually some really good piece of information. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure also throughout anything that I do, I don't lose myself. I just having a conversation with my cousin about like just not
losing your authentic self to like nothing that you got going on, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your career, like anything, don't lose yourself. And I always told myself, like, when I had the ability to like buy my own clothes, like I would be one of the flyest people that I know, because my mom didn't have like the ability always to like get me like the flyest clothes. Like when I was a kid, like Abercrombie and Fitch and like Hollister were things that I never could get it. And I'm like, yo, when I get some money, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna be so fly. And I know like that's a part of like who I am. And how going back to how I build relationships, I want kids to be able to relate to me and know that, like, again, like I said at the beginning, y'all are me. Like I had the same experiences y'all are having in school, just I didn't have a Mr. Woodson. So I want y'all to see that like you could get fly and have like a career and not be somebody that's like the cliche, but like a dope boy on the street or even like a ball player. You can have a good quality career that has purpose and still get fly. And that's like my whole mantra and like idea with my clothes. I want to make sure that kids see somebody, especially because I've been in leadership for like the last 5 years of my career. And I want them to definitely see like the opposite of like a white man in like a slacks and a button down, still be able to walk into a room and command it with a hoodie on that's made by a black owned brand. Some shoes, that's made by a black person. Some like a full black owned fit, and it be fly, and they still making sure they getting it done.
That's so dope.
That's like really where that comes from.
Oh, and so I pulled out one that was my favorite. Are any one of the taglines that you put in that video your favorite? I'm a young, dope, fly, black male educator.
My favorite one that I get a lot of like comments about is the last one, that people sometimes confuse my passion for the black male syndrome. I've been a basketball coach for now going on like 8 years. I don't coach currently because my school only goes up to 5th grade, so we don't have a team. But I always would get slack for like my passion on the sideline. And people will always like, even like my principal, like he was a white man, he would pull me into like an office from time to time and be like, "Yo, you got to tone it down." And I'm like, "The fuck you mean tone it down? Like, why do I got to tone it down?" And it's literally like white men doing the exact same thing I'm doing, but they get called good coaches. They get called somebody who's like cares about the game. And I've played basketball since I was 13 years old. Like I know how to play. Like I went to school to play basketball. I was a all public player in the city of Philadelphia, all city honorable mention. Like I did all these things. I know what the game means to me. And I know what the game can do for these kids. I don't want them to cheat it, half-ass it, or none of those things. So when I scream and yell and I expect more of them, that's my passion. That's not me being angry. And when I yell at a referee for like cheating my kids because we're in a rural area and they don't think like my kids deserve like the proper call, like I'm going to lose my mind. But again, it's not me losing my mind. It's me like showing them like I'm going to fight for them as long as they fight for me.
And fight for themselves. And you know what else is making me think of? For those who think that your I statement, your experience is not a universal one. Although he wasn't a coach, I know many people saw the Super Bowl. And you saw Kelsey. His white male aggression got in the coach's face, and the coach probably could smell what he ate for breakfast that morning. That's how close he was in his face. But he was passionate about the game of football. And I kept thinking to myself when I was watching, if that human being had been chocolate, and if that was anybody else, what would have been he would have been ejected, there would have been a fine or something. And so again, although you were talking about as a coach being passionate on the sidelines, I think regardless of your title, coach, principal, teacher, security, like when you're a black male and you show that passion, it's always going to be a tone it down.
And I've been a dean of students for 6 years, and even like in my decision making with kids, like I try to like disrupt the school to prison pipeline with like my like consequence ladder and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I also want to teach my kids that your actions sometimes could come with a consequence or a reward. And if you fight in this building, if you fight outside of this building, they're going to have similar to the same consequences. So when I'm trying to suspend a kid to like have them understand like, yo, this situation is serious, And I'm only doing it because I want to make sure that your parent comes in so we can all collaborate on like what the next solution is to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
People are like, are you too harsh? You too this, you too that. But like, no, I always have a rhyme or reason of what I'm doing, whether it's a yes or a no.
Right.
Like I always want to give you an explanation as to why I'm doing something because I don't want you to be confused because I hate being confused.
Right.
And at the end of the day, like I said, all of our actions have a reaction, whether it's a reward or a consequence.
Yeah.
And even like, again, with that type of stuff, people always got like something to say, or like they look at you a different way because again, it's not their idea or it's not their situation where they got to make the call.
Right.
And I'm like, that's crazy. And perception is something that I've been having to deal with my entire career.
Yeah.
People tell me like again about my dress, about like the decisions I make, about like my voice level and all of those things.
Everything is under a microscope.
Yep.
And what is also very encouraging about what you're sharing, because although I'm not a young, dope, fly Black male educator, as a female, you know, one of the things that you're speaking to in your responses is this idea of youth culture, right? So from how you're choosing to build relationships with young people is grounded in how you wish someone would have dealt with you because you didn't have a Mr. Woodson.
For sure.
But also from your fit, you want to disrupt the narrative and do it in a way through the gritty, through handshakes, through shadow boxing that shows that you're connected to what matters to them. And I'm highlighting this because when I think about, I know you're in Philly, but in New York State, we have this framework called the Culturally Responsive and Sustaining Framework. And it's basically a blueprint or a framework for how to be more inclusive and diverse. And they call out all the different characteristics of culture, like race, ethnicity, gender, age, whatever. One thing that I think is missing from it is youth culture, right? So even here in our museum, when I gave you a tour and I talked about being intergenerational, our genres are written as hashtags because social media right now is a wave.
For sure.
And when I think about, you know, the ways that you're choosing to intentionally build relationships, it's because you're keeping the pulse to what is mattering to you.
For sure.
And you're keeping yourself in the shoes of Mr. Woodson when he was in K through 5th grade. What would he have wanted? And I think a lot of educators forget that part of the journey. That they're not just there to teach, they're supposed to reimagine. Shout out to Bluetooth. We had SZA playing in the background, y'all, because this brother's a SZA fan.
Yes.
Follow him at F.Woodson with a double N, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So SZA's off now, so we can focus. But yes, I just wanted to call out youth culture, which makes me think about one of your favorite books, which is right here, All American Boys. Why is that one of your favorites? Youth culture.
Because when I first read it, it was around a time where it was during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make some noise through like education. And when I was reading the book, I'm like, this is a similar situation that we are dealing with in real time. So the book helped guide me through like how to, for real, like address the situations that we were dealing with.
Right.
Predominantly in 2020 when the George Floyd situation happened. And I'm like, police brutality is another thing that's killing our community. And like people only want to talk about it when a public figure gets in front of like the conversation, but this stuff happens like still at a higher rate that we wouldn't want it to be happening.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a Black male leader in a KIPP organization before, and he told me that he didn't think he would ever have to put on his Eric Gardner shirt that when the situation happened again in 2016. And I'm like, that didn't rub me the right way because I'm like, why did you think that?
Right.
Like, what makes you think like we are in a better situation or in a better spot?
Right.
Because one could say we are, but just because these things are on the news every single day doesn't mean it's not happening every single day. Like I get pulled over at a rate that I don't think that like my white counterpart does.
Right.
And even if I'm in a car by myself or I'm in a car with somebody, it's always like that fear of like, yo, is this it? Is this one of those moments? Yeah. And reading like this book, it was like, yo, another reason why I make my videos, right? Like somebody else is sharing the same story. Yeah. And I read it with a 5th grade class actually. Yeah.
And so I love that you bring that up, one, because it gives me an opportunity to thank you again for pulling up. And it's not that you have a fear of driving per se, but any Black person behind the wheel, when they're going across state lines, I'm sure there's an extra prayer you say for traveling mercies or whatever, because of the prevalence with which you're pulled over. But also what you're speaking to is the importance of seeing yourself in books. And so when I think about All-American Boys and some of the plot, and navigating not just speculation, but just for your skin color, wrong place, wrong time, has a life-altering trajectory.
Yep.
How does part of those this book transfer to something you've experienced in life? So I know you talked about being terminated and speculation around that. And anything from that experience you feel resonated when you read this book?
Just with, I mean, in terms of like just dealing with the cops, because I know we probably gonna get into like determination and stuff a little later in the show, but just dealing with the cops, like I've been pulled over a handful of times, and I actually just recently got pulled over. I want to say like 2 weeks ago, and I think in the city of Philadelphia now we are going back to like you could like stop and frisk.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they are, but that's what I heard.
Okay.
And a cop pulled me over and he asked me if I had like a weapon in the car, and I said no.
Yeah.
And he said, "You don't sound too sure." And I'm like, all right, like whatever. And he's like, he opened the door and he's like, "Let me just see if you do have a weapon on you."
Yeah.
And I didn't think I had any like probable cause to get like checked sitting in my car.
Yeah.
I was just sitting down in my car, and I do all the like little things that you need to do when dealing with law enforcement, like ask him before you move your hands and all those things. I gave him my license and all that, but he like took it back to his car, and then came back and just said, "You didn't sound too sure," and then like patted me down, sit in my car, and I was with somebody. And they like, he's not that type of person. They like, and every time this happens, like people always try to run down like my resume, like he's an educator, he's this, he's that, and I like feel like that's so unnecessary. Because like, why do I have to be like this superhero? For you to feel like I'm not dangerous. And that's just one of the things that like resonated with me heavily in terms of like All-American Boy, just dealing with law enforcement and just knowing that it's just not fair.
Yeah, and one of our micro segments, Oh Hell No, we're going to actually tap into young Black male experiences and their choice of physical expression through even their hair, and you know, what the realities are of even choosing to rock locks. And so that's another reason why we have this dope painting here and you here, but we'll get into that when we get to Oh Hell No. All right, so before we start talking about determination, a few more things. So one of the things that I always love to ask in doing research to prepare for any episode is there a historical figure or person that you draw inspiration from? And you gave me three. You said Malcolm X, Tupac, and Coach Prime. And so the one that I want to zone in on is Coach Prime, not only because he's the only living one, but he's been in the news lately for having some, you know, very confident language about his abilities to do what he did successfully, which is take a team and turn it around and make it really one of the number one ranking teams. And so why did you pick Coach Prime Time?
Because again, no matter what I do and everything I do, I want to be my authentic self. And he is like 100% himself in everything he does. He's unapologetically a superstar. He's unapologetically Black. And he doesn't shy away from it. Like he knows exactly what he wants and how he wants, all the way down to like his recruitment. Like he'll openly say he doesn't want a quarterback that has a 2-parent household, or like a defensive lineman who has a 2-parent household. Like he wants somebody that's hungry. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Like we all are, like everything is on a scale or being rated. No matter how you try to like run away from it, but everything is rated. And like he says, like, I have a favorite kid right now, and like I
never say that.
I'd never like say it to like a stranger. But like deep down inside, I have a favorite kid. And I don't try to shy away from like those things. And I feel like that makes me who I am. And I feel like that makes him who he is, and he's having success. And you can't. Another one of my favorite like icons is like Kanye West too, because one of his big thing is if you get the money, nobody can say or do nothing to you. And Coach Prime has the money. He has all the accolades. He has all the accomplishments, and nobody can really do or say anything to you. He's rebuilding at Colorado right now. Yes. But he has the #1 offensive tackle committed there. His son is projected to go top 20 in the NFL draft. His other son is an NFL draft pick, potentially. Like he's making it happen. His way. And I want to do everything that I do my way.
Authentically. And it's funny because again, you take Coach Prime and you make him, excuse me, a Caucasian male And he is like, they probably have a statue of him already, right? But just for the fact that he is Black, and yes, I truly believe it's because of that, you're seeing so much controversy about his language, and he's in his ego, and it's made to be something negative instead of what it really is something to be honored.
It's confidence.
It's confidence.
It's pride.
It's confidence. It's pride. All right, so confidence and pride, that's on the educational side. But as a professional, right? Do you think there's any artist or person, or would you say it's still Coach Prime? But I want to go to the musical side because I know you're a music lover too. Is there any artist, rapper, performance artist that you think their vibe as an artist matches your educational swag? Like if you were to take you and put you into an artist, who would you be?
As an education artist.
A musical artist that has your swag in your role as the dancing dean, right? But put them on the stage and their performance, their artistry, their lyricism is like, that would be me. And you can mix it up. It could be 2 and 1. It don't have to be 1.
I want to say probably Kanye West.
Okay, tell me why. Shout out to Vultures, Volume 1.
Yeah, that joint just got taken off iTunes.
Stop it.
The distribution.
Stop it.
Yeah. But because I also wear my emotions on my sleeve. And I'm working on that a lot, especially like dealing with my mental health and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like he is sometimes misunderstood with like what he's saying because he's like a Simpsons episode where like he'll say something and then it'll come to fruition a little bit later. Like things about his daughter, things about like his kids. And I feel like that is the same way I feel with how I am as an educator.
Yeah.
I'm misunderstood sometimes with like some of the decisions that I make and some of the things, how I want to go about particular things. And a lot of the times I say something, and then it'll come to fruition a little bit later. Yeah. Or even like one of the lines I said in the other TikTok where I said, of course, older teachers don't think I know what I'm talking about. It's like I'll say something and then my director or somebody else is coming to me later, like, yo, talk to me about that idea you had in that meeting earlier. When like the older principal was like, I don't actually want to hear that. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. I don't gotta hear it.
Yeah. All right, so we got some yay vibes, and I can see that for the misunderstood factor, and also just for being way ahead of the time. Like it's one thing to have a forward thought, but he is like light years ahead.
For sure.
Shout out to seeing yourself in that way and the way that you do it. Okay, so before I ask this next question, because I know you're a huge SZA fan, top 5 SZA songs.
Top 5 SZA songs.
What are they?
Number 5 is probably Gone Girl.
Okay.
Off of SOS.
Yeah.
Number 4 would probably be Broken Clocks from Control.
Not naming the song and the album. Yeah. Real fan. That's my
favorite. Number 3 would probably be The Weeknd.
Okay.
From Control. Number 2 would probably be Too Late. But Telekinesis is not her song. She's a feature.
So
you said SZA features.
All right, you're right.
Different list. But Too Late of SOS and my number 1 favorite, my favorite song of hers of all time is Love Language.
No Snooze. Snooze doesn't make top 5.
Snooze doesn't make my top 5 because it's like commercial.
No Kill Bill. Commercial. All right. No, I'm not going to ask you your why. Those are your 5. You're going to let it rock. All right. So now, non-SZA related. Do you have a hype song? Like I'm getting ready, whether it was getting ready for a KIP or getting ready for where you're going out. What's your hype song?
V's.
Fire
Drill.
Okay.
Not a fire drill.
Not a fire drill? All right, I gotta look that up. I love that because so far everyone that I've interviewed or spoken to, they've given me a song I haven't known. So I'm gonna make an untenured playlist of all the guest favorite hype songs. So stay tuned for that also as well. All right, so we're almost there. What do you think are some unspoken truths in your experience for teachers of color, whether they're tenured or not? So I don't know if you saw episode 0, which was my chance to kind of set the stage for what this experience would be. But one of the reasons why I put that out there is because not everyone from the field knows what tenure is supposed to do, right? Which is serve as a safeguard so that you have layers of protection and due process when you choose to advocate or speak up for kids. But I've experienced that tenure or not, when you are an educator or a leader of color, there's no such thing as the safeguard.
For sure.
So that tenure thing is just something on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you think are some of the unspoken truths about being Black and brown and tenured or not tenured as an educator that people don't know?
I think we are the best teachers for our kids. I think a lot of people that don't look like us try to come into our communities with the like savior complex, with the I can do this, with the I owe it to them type of vibe. And it's like, we don't really need that.
Yeah.
Because that's how we got into the situation that we all are in, is like people now like just trusting them and like thinking that it could be better like their way. And like when we already had everything going on for ourselves. I think like we are the best teachers for our kids because we had, again, similar experiences. We know exactly what they've been through to almost like identical situations.
Yeah.
We can relate to their parents. And I think like for real, we need to be in the communities that we're from. Like I deal with a lot of people that I went to school with now with their kids because my school is in my community. So like I know some of their parents. I know like some of the struggles that they have. So like when a kid is coming in not hungry, I know they're hungry. Because I know their home situation.
So let me ask you a question, right? Because we live in Middletown. We worked in Middletown when something happened for us speaking truth to power. Take the KIPP situation, and let's say you lived in that community. What do you think that would be like?
I think I would have definitely got a different response because Camden is a super tight-knit community.
Okay.
And they don't really like outsiders from my perspective.
Okay.
I don't want to like speak for the whole city of Camden because that's like my second home. I'll call it my second home.
Okay.
But they are a really tight-knit community and they don't really like outsiders.
Okay.
And like even like me, again, like we just have like this complex, like me being from Philly and like me making so much noise in Camden. Even like some of the people that look like me didn't like it and like try to give me some resistance.
Yeah.
But if I was from Camden,
it would have
for sure it would have been a whole situation.
Okay, so for those who don't know, and give it to us Twitter style because I want to encourage them to go to your IG where you do a story time and you go into it. But if you had to give it in Twitter form, the speculation that then led to your termination, what was that about?
Yeah, so I was the dean of students. So like one of my jobs was to collect contraband weapons or anything like that that came through the school.
Yeah.
And I'm not sorry for this part, but I was the head dean, even though it was like a 1A and a 1B.
Okay.
And people came to me for like all of those different things. Like, Mr. Woodson, I need you to do this reinstatement meeting. Mr. Woodson, I need you to write the letter to suspend the kid. All of those like nuances. And
because you're the Black man.
Yeah.
So all the discipline is you.
But it was another Black male too, though. So
Okay,
like in that case, they go to like who's the strongest.
Okay, so that was you. You were the head.
So I confiscated a weapon and I put it in my book bag because at the time it was earlier in the school year and I didn't want the weapon to get in anybody else's hands.
Right.
So I was the basketball coach and then we had a basketball game at our sister school and I left my book bag there by accident.
Right.
Like I didn't intentionally leave my book bag there. And again, like I said, this was at the beginning of the school year. I didn't get terminated until like May of that school year. Okay. And they said they had my book bag. But you didn't just find my book bag 6 months later.
Right.
In a school that's surveillance 24/7.
Right.
That's clean 24/7. You didn't just find it.
So if you had to speculate, because they were speculating on you hard and heavy, if you had to speculate what it was really about, what would you say?
I was making too much noise. I was like putting up too much of a resistance. Like the kids, the families, the teachers liked me too much to the point where even if I did like raise my voice and stuff, people understood like why I was doing it.
Right.
Parents understood why I was doing it. Kids understood why I was doing it. And they're going through a transition like this school right now with like leadership in terms of principal.
Okay.
And I heard since I've been going that they felt as though that the person that's taking over that school wouldn't be able to deal with my, what's the word I'm looking for? My rebellion.
Your strength.
Yeah.
Like your style.
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to deal with it. And the person that's like transitioning into that role, I viewed them as like a little sister. Like she used to be around me all the time. We used to bounce ideas off of each other.
Yeah.
But whenever it came time to make the nitty gritty decisions, they would always look at me and I wouldn't hesitate or like think twice about like the decision that I made. And I mean, I think that, I mean, it's still speculation because I don't know from like nobody else that like knows like exactly what's going on, but like teachers that I'm still connected with have told me different things. And it's like, they didn't think that I would be a good fit to be her dean because of the dynamic shift. Like people respected me in a sense more than they did her authority.
So based on what you're telling me, the emphasis wasn't on what's going to be best to service the young people of that school community.
No, not at all.
It was what was going to be best to serve
our agenda.
Listen, hello. All right. And so terminated off of speculation. We gave our speculation on why we think it really was so. And it makes me think about, not to be so bold because we're both still very young to compare ourselves to some historical figures who have done the same. But in my experience, anytime that an educator, a security guard, a TA, a librarian, they have the power to galvanize people. And it's not so much just popularity, but they have the ability to bring them together to manage situations that no one else can. You then get a target.
Yeah.
And that's just the simplest way to put it. So it's almost like, do I use my God-given gifts and my 10 toes down approach to stay connected to the young people at the expense of what could be my job? Or do I eggshell around egos and agendas to keep my livelihood? That's one of the unspoken realities. Oh, no, we're not. You already lived it. So we know that Mr. Woodson cannot do it. Yeah.
Like, it's just so hard for me to do that because I'm like not fake at all.
Yeah.
And when people subliminally ask me to do that, I read right through it.
Yeah.
Because that's not me. I know that's not me.
Okay.
And that's just not who I am. My mommy raised me to be that type of person.
Shout out to Mama and the song On My Mama, but I won't start singing. So what does support then, in your mind, in an ideal educational setting for a young, dope, Black male educator? What does support look like? Especially when you're unapologetically Black in yourself and authentic, and especially when you're speaking up about inequities you see or advocating for kids or holding contraband. Like, what does support look like for a Mr. Woodson and a school system?
Well, at the top, transparency. Like, I just need to know what y'all want, how y'all want it. And if I can deliver it that way, I will. But if I have my own direction, just let me be able to be my authentic self and have freedom. I think I would truly benefit and have benefited from a diversity, equity, and inclusion space where I could just talk about my experiences and talk with like-minded people, and even also be in groups where we aren't having the same experiences and just see how they're different. Support, freedom, and making sure we do the work, the DEI work.
And so that's in an ideal setting. And so hearing that response tells me that what we're living or we've lived through has not been that, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say teacher prep programs get remixed, because I'll use an I statement again. When I was in the traditional role of director of math or a principal or director of student equity, there's this undertone of anxiety that always lives there, not out of a fear of being myself, but the eyes that are looking at you, even when you're choosing to unapologetically be yourself. You have to navigate being the only in certain spaces. So let's say teacher prep programs get remixed. What do you think, given especially your vulnerability and honesty about like mental health supports, are some things that teacher prep programs should start integrating, especially for teachers of color?
I think every school should have an on-site therapist.
For the educators.
Yeah, for the educators. Like, teaching is a tough ass job.
Yeah.
Especially being like a subject teacher. Like, I've never been like a subject teacher.
Right.
But you are in charge of someone's mind. But you are in charge of like molding that. And so a lot of people that I've worked with take that stuff home. Like, when a sixth grader is on a third grade reading level. Like, that's like some tough stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
You got to revamp the entire lesson plan. Sometimes you got to revamp sometimes how you are teaching.
Yeah.
And that could be a lot. Kids, for what it's worth, are generally sometimes disrespectful.
Yeah.
You get the tail end of stuff, like all the way to SMD, to potentially getting hands put on you. Like, it happens.
Yeah.
Parents could get unruly. They could be the ones telling you SMD. People potentially talking about pulling guns out and stuff on you and things like that. And we do the work, like we go to school, we try to get careers to get away from that stuff. But people that look like me and you that want to service our communities, we go back to it.
Yeah.
And it's the same stuff.
Yeah.
And people sometimes don't understand the toll that it takes on us. And it'll be cool and beneficial to have somebody in your building that you could just go talk to and just let it out.
Yeah.
Because the social workers, they also have like their private practices or whatever they got going on and they charge. But the school district or the entity like the charter or the private sector should pay for somebody to just sit there and listen. Yeah.
And you know what's so cool about what you're saying is because when I think about one of my next questions, which is, what do you think will make this profession more attractive for Black and brown folks to become teachers, especially in the communities that they come from? I've experienced being the only, right? And so part of that mental health battle or carrying the weight of a 6th grader on a 3rd grade reading level is sometimes attributed to, excuse me, not having a peer or a colleague to bounce ideas off of, to go to and be like, well, how did you navigate this? Because when you're the only, you go home and you sit with that in isolation.
Sure.
And so even if we have the same skin color, we may not have the same consciousness or commitment to each child in that classroom. And so my mind in making that question is, what if more Black and brown people like Mr. Woodson went into teaching? What do you think that would do? Or what would make it more attractive for people to become teachers? Black people and brown people.
I think it should be easier, because I think like everything for us is more difficult than the opposite. So I think it should be easier for us to come into schools and obtain a degree that qualifies you to teach. Because a lot of the people from the community don't have the practice backgrounds or even like that educational background, or even sometimes even went to college themselves.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of added benefit to their community, which starts in the schools.
Yeah.
NTAs allow them to be able to go back to school on tuition reimbursement programs and things like that. Teach the people that are already in the community ways to be better at what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, the money too, right?
Right.
And also being transparent with it though. Because like I said, everything is rated and everybody's rated in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Like if you're on an NBA team, everybody isn't paid the same because of how good somebody is compared to the next.
Yeah.
Even in like Congress and stuff like that, people have different titles and positions based on some type of metric.
Yeah, right.
Be transparent with those metrics.
Yeah.
Like you have an exemplar teacher. You have teachers that get rated and they get different type of raises and stuff like that based on how well they perform.
Yeah.
Be transparent and honest with those things, and people will gravitate towards that more.
Yeah.
If I know I need to hit this goal, and that goal to get this amount of money, I'm going to do those things at a higher level because I know I need to make these joints work.
Yeah.
And
make
I feel
like,
like just make it math.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. And also like, don't try to limit somebody. Don't try to tell somebody they're not worth this thing if you don't have a legit metric that's or proof to say that they're not.
Right.
Like the way I build relationships is something that I would let nobody not tell me that's like A+ 100%.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because one of the things I was going to say is, yes, there needs to be a metric, but we need to look at the metric and the rubric, because in New York State, although there's like 3 different options, the one most prevalent in my experience has been the Charlotte Danielson group for evaluating teachers. And
Kip created their own.
Okay. Well, let me tell you about this, and then you tell me about Kip. So, as an evaluator, if I, Yaya, was coming into Mr. Woodson's classroom and I saw you doing gritty and the handshakes, I know how I'm rating that. I'm rating that as a 4 out of 4, which is highly effective, because as a Black and brown leader and supervisor, I'm going in and I'm seeing a Black and brown teacher doing something out of the box, not from their like their sip and paint curriculum to build connection.
For sure.
But if I'm not Yaya, and I don't want to pick a name, but if I'm someone else not Yaya, less melanated that's coming in, I might see that as a one, as ineffective.
Right.
Why? You're a third grade content teacher. You're supposed to be teaching English, science. Why are you in here doing handshakes and dancing? They have a state test to take. And so I share that because, yes, I think the metric should be transparent, but I also think that the metric we use needs to fit the stage or the setting that we're going to view. So we got to create our own metrics.
And that goes back to my point about putting our people in the schools. Because again, if all the Black people that's in this room right now go into a school, we'll all look at each other the exact same.
Yeah.
We not looking again. You wouldn't look at me and say like, yo, he's doing those things and he's not an effective teacher.
Yeah, not at all.
I wouldn't look at you, and if you have this set up in your classroom, and be like, yo, she's not doing what the lesson plan is telling her to do.
Yeah.
But we should be teaching our kids how to talk publicly. We should be teaching our kids how to deal with taxes. We should be teaching our kids how to deal with insurance and things like that. They don't learn that stuff until like it happens.
And on the mental health tip, we should be teaching our young people how to regulate their emotions and not suspending them when they show an emotion that doesn't fit the school setting.
Right.
Because then when are they ever going to learn?
Exactly.
They associate, I have an outburst with suspension, but that's a whole separate podcast, y'all.
For sure.
But I might chip in and talk to Mr. Woodson about that later. All right, so we are about to hit our 3 micro segments. Before I do, one of the things that I want to make a finger point of our untenured experience is putting one data point in the mist. And I love how you brought up, I forget who their name was, but someone who said to you, there's no data that shows, you didn't say his name. All right, some white man that said there's no data that shows that wearing a button down makes you more effective as a teacher than wearing a hoodie, right? And so a recent research study from the year 2020-2021 shows that Black male educators nationwide make up only 1.3% of the teacher force. What do you think the percentage is for white females, if you had to guess? And 1.3% went down 5% over the last 3 years. So it's even lower.
Because I know it was like 2% at one point.
Yeah, and now it's even lower.
White females?
White women. What percentage of them do you think, according to this research study?
I would say around like 63%.
Come on, brother. Are you looking at this phone?
Mm-mm.
No? 61%. Yeah. Come on now. Come on now. So what do you think is the root of that, like, supreme misalignment? White women in droves are going into the education field, but Black male educators are not.
I think white women are going into it because it's something that probably they don't have an issue with doing or like have any resistance with. And I say that in the sense of I'm coming into this school and I could borderline get away with a lot of different things. Like they could go to a teacher and cry about what's going on and somebody will show them sympathy. They could look past this kid that should be diagnosed with something to get them an IEP or a 504 and still get paid. They could come into this community and maybe move a kid a grade level and feel like they accomplished something. I think that is a lot of the reasons why white women go into the education field, because they feel like it's instant success. And if it's not, somebody is going to make me feel better about the situation that I'm in. And again, that white woman complex where they cry and get what they want type of thing.
The white fragility, that's what they call it. White fragility gives them flowers at their feet and will help you solve the problem. All right, so we have that data point in there, and that also opinion or speculation on the white woman prevalence in the education field. And so with that, I think that's a semi-perfect segue into our first micro segment, Oh Hell No. Okay. And this is our opportunity. We spoke prior to this podcast and we came to a consensus about a recent current event that as soon as we read it, we said, oh, hell no. Yeah. Oh, hell no. And it actually is really close to home because both of us are rocking locks. We have this dope piece of artwork with a beautiful melanated fellow who could be a medical chief, not a miscreant, right? Because he is rocking locks. And this current event issue, although it's in Texas, It could very well be New York or it could be Philadelphia. And so the current event issue, to let our viewers know, there was a superintendent in Texas that put out a full-page ad defending his suspension of a Black male student, and that Black male student's name is Darryl George out of Mount Bellevue, Texas. He suspended him for rocking his locks under the guise that, quote, being American requires conformity. And so this young brother was suspended not only because they said that he was violating the dress code policy, but that he was also violating the grooming policy. And it's not that they didn't allow Black men to have locks, but because his were longer than they allowed, that he was violating school law. Dramatic pause with the head tilt to the side. What say you?
I think that's crazy, first and foremost. And I think that does not, like, this country was quote unquote built on like freedom and things like that. Like, you telling me that I have to have my locks a particular way, a particular length, and they have to look a certain way. That's like taking away from my freedom of like making sure taking away the freedom of having my crown look the way I want it to look.
Yes, yes.
And I think that, again, it goes back to like how I said about this stuff is happening all the time. And his situation, thank God, like I said, like a double-edged sword, like he's going through this, but now it's like national news. And I think we read a Rolling Stones.
Yes, yes.
Like that's a really heavy publicated like magazine and online site. He's getting his story out there, and hopefully somebody could make some type of situation happen to make sure that he's received the justice that he should get. But I think, like, again, this stuff happens far too often. Yeah. And we just got to continue to have the conversations and bring awareness to these type of things, because, again, I'm a person, again, like I said, I'm going to always fight against the status quo. If you tell me it got to be done this way, then you get this result, I'm going to do it my way and still get the same result.
Right, right.
Like, I don't have to do it that way.
Right.
And, again, like how you said at the beginning, like, he could be
medical chief,
anybody. You feel me? It doesn't matter how short or long my locks are. It doesn't matter how thick my mustache is or how dark my skin is. I should have the same opportunities that everybody else has.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it.
And, going back to the educator fit, what does the length of your locks have to do with your ability to solve Pythagorean theorem or to write a well-formed thesis or paper? Absolutely nothing. And so we'll be keeping ourselves apprised of the outcome. Thankfully, Darryl George has parents who are strong advocates. And so their argument is, for those who don't know, the Crown Act, which has actually been signed into law in 24 states, Texas and New York. I'm not sure about Philadelphia. I have to check. Do you know if they passed the Crown Act?
I'm not sure.
It's creating a world where natural hair-based discrimination is illegal. Only in 24 of our 50 states, but Texas and New York so far are one of them. And so he has a trial date February 22nd. I'll be looking to see what the outcome of this is. But we saw it and said, hell no. I said, oh, hell no. And you saw Mr. Woodson's reaction. Yeah. He did the slow, like, you gotta be effing kidding me.
Yeah, like, I've been wanting to say like some wild stuff about like things like that. But yeah.
All right, that'll be untenured, uncut. But you can let it rip. This podcast is for grown folk. But it's wild. And then even when I think about, again, the educator fit, the perception that a Black man or a Black woman with locks, you had this in your IG video. You've been asked if you sell drugs. Yeah. Right? I get asked did I even go to college? Right? And it's not necessarily just because the locks, but I know the presence of this hairstyle has people jump into like a stereotype deficit.
For sure.
And so shout out to Rockin' Locks.
Absolutely.
Every day, all day. I know I shaved the back, but the top's not going anywhere. Yeah. The top's not going anywhere. So that's oh hell no. All right. So next, we're going to a micro segment called Deuces. And in this segment, I'm going to give Mr. Woodson the opportunity to chuck up the deuces. 3 things he's going to be presented about the real experience of what's going on in education, either in the past or currently. One has to go because you think is doing the most harm. So which one should get removed from the group right away? If you could wave your magic wand, it's out of the education system because it's doing the most harm. You ready? All right. So here's the first one. All the Black staff are the security, the custodial, and cafeteria employees. All the staff. So if they're Black, they're in security, they're the custodial staff, or they're in the cafeteria, food services.
They have to be?
Yes. No, they are. So you're in a school, and the only Black people you see are the security, the cafeteria workers, or the custodial staff. All right, here's the next one. All the Black staff are skin folk, but not kinfolk.
Okay.
So maybe they're teachers, they're principal, and they're Black in color, but they're not doing anything to be 10 tones down to the young people. The last one. All the Black teachers teach remedial or non-advanced courses. So they're Black teachers, but they're teaching all the remedial courses or art, nothing that is heavy in content. Which do you think does the most harm? They're all harmful, by the way. There's no right or wrong.
I think the harmfulest one is being skinfolk but not being kinfolk.
Ooh, tell us why.
I think you don't allow the people that are under you that you're managing or whatever, like in your school, to feel comfortable or safe. And if I don't feel safe or comfortable, I'm not gonna be able to do my job effectively.
Hello.
Compared to if everybody is Black that's in the kitchen or the janitorial staff, at least I feel some type of comfort with, them being around. Right. Like I know if that is the case,
there's still a safe space.
It's still a safe space. They're still making sure that like things are where they need to be because they care about this community, they care about the kids that we serve just as much as the teachers.
Yeah.
And I think actually, if that was the case, all the Black teachers teaching remedial stuff is necessary because we have a lot of people who are far behind. We have a lot of people that are behind. We have a bunch of people that are right there.
Yeah.
If they're teaching the remedial stuff, they also can add a different relationship layer, a different context layer to get kids hopefully a step closer to where they need to be.
All right. I'm not going to ask you why every single time, but for that one, because one of the things we haven't really dived into is the Black folk who are only Black on the outside. That might be a separate conversation. All right. So here's the next one. Which one we chucking up the deuces to? You're disconnected from youth culture. Like you have no idea what's going on with young people, what's hip, what's a vibe, whatever. You're disconnected from the community you teach. You teach, you go home, you don't know nothing about the community, or you're disconnected from current teaching strategies. Which one is going to do the most harm? You could get rid of it right away. Being disconnected from youth culture, disconnected from the community you teach in, not live in, but teach in, or disconnected from current teaching strategies.
That's hard. That's the hardest one.
Oh, good. I was trying to make it a little challenging.
I think if I had to choose one,
don't say eat all the above.
No, I would throw away the being disconnected from the community.
The community living.
Yeah.
All right.
Because I actually dealt with a teacher or an educator who was in my school, and she drove an Audi.
Okay.
And she said she wouldn't drive her car around Camden. And I'm like, what the fuck?
That's another oh hell no.
Yeah,
Well, what
like,
the fuck?
what do you mean? Like, that's like just so like nutty.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
but you're choosing to work there.
Right.
But well, that's
yeah.
No. All right. That would be our off camera huddle. All right, two more. Which one you have to go? You have to give the deuces to whitewashed curriculum, standardized assessments, or chalk and talk instruction. You know, the wonder years, today class, and you don't look at the kids, you don't talk to the kids, you're not handshaking the kids. Like you chalk and talk. Oh, this is a hard thing?
I think definitely what you said would be the most detrimental.
Yeah, which one do you think is doing the most harm?
Yeah.
Like it has to lead tomorrow.
Whitewashing education. Because like a lot of people don't know. I hope people that's watching this know that we're the first millionaire and billionaires.
Hello, Matsumoto.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like his wealth probably today would probably like supersedes like Steve Jobs and those type of people.
Not CJ Walker on US turf.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like that's crazy. And like Christopher Columbus didn't like find this place, like stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like George Washington owned slaves.
Oh, Thomas Jefferson too.
Yeah.
It's just, how do we tell the full story? And that's the thing. There are people that think that telling the full truth of the story means that, you're doing something that is malicious. How is truth telling ever malicious?
Right.
Anyway, that's a sidebar. All right. Last one. OSS, and for those of you not from the educator field, that's out of school suspension. So you do something wrong, you can't come back to school for X number of days. Performative SEL. SEL is social emotional learning. So teachers have, in New York anyway, they have a rubric and a framework that requires them to care about and check in with how young people are feeling. But instead of doing it authentically, you go, how are you feeling today on a scale of 1 to 10? And then you move on. Or surface level culturally responsive teaching. We're going to teach about Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X, and then check Black history is done. Which one does the most harm? High school suspension, performative social emotional learning, or surface level culturally responsive teaching?
What was the last one?
Surface level culturally responsive. So you're only teaching Malcolm Martin.
Yeah, I think that is the most important.
Yeah.
Because again, like how you said, like people saying like the truth sometimes is not the best thing, but I think it is, right?
Absolutely.
Because I don't know where I read this at to like, so I don't want to like quote me or whatever, but I don't think Martin Luther King is the man that we perceive him to be.
Yeah.
Like,
well, they definitely don't share his full dream.
Yeah.
They do that I have a dream speech and it stops there.
Like I think like he had some flaws that would be beneficial for like this generation to know.
Yeah.
Because even like a person or a historical figure like in his like lane still had his flaws.
Yeah.
To the point where sometimes it probably could have been detrimental to his cause.
Yeah.
So I think we don't need to like teach those type of things. Like even like Rosa Parks, like she wasn't the first person to do that.
Absolutely.
So like all of those things I think are detrimental because we are not telling those people's full truth.
Yes.
Like we're not speaking the truth.
And you know what it makes me think of? I saw an Instagram post recently that was talking about Malcolm X and Maya Angelou just as examples, and we know them as Pulitzer Prize winning authors and icons to the culture. But their young adulthood was like raw. Yeah. And it was like real. And from incarceration to molestation, like real things happened to them. And so leaving that part out of their story, you're robbing the opportunity for young people to deeply connect with. They can be those people too, right? All right, so we survived that. No more spicy ones. Last segment. That was good? All right, I tried my best to give you something challenging. All right, last micro segment. They say, you say. I'm not asking you why. First thought that comes to your mind, you drop an F-bomb, is for grown folks, we're okay. I'm going to tell you something they say, and you give your clap back. First thing that comes to mind. You ready? All right, here we go. They say, angry Black man. You say,
fuck out of here.
All right, dope. Okay. They say lots are not professional. Lots. These aren't professional. You say
make me cut them.
Try to make me cut them, right? All right. They say relationship building doesn't get you to pass state exams. Like all that gritty handshake, that's not gonna get you to pass the state exam. You say,
tell me more.
They say color doesn't matter. It's about knowing your content. You talk about Black teachers with Black kids and they need that, but it's not about your color. Just know your content. You say,
I don't think you should be in education.
Boom. Okay, sorry. They say veteran teachers are the experts.
I say I do a lot of things better than that teacher though. Hello.
They say Black males are best placed in disciplinary roles. You say
yes, and.
Yes, and true. And last one. They say hip hop has no place in education. You say
Young Thug once said, what's learned must be taught.
Hello. All right. So I know that you gave me carte blanche to dive into termination, but I don't want to give that any more light unless you want to, because what you're doing now, what you came to pour into the young people through Excelsior Academy, it's more important to me to share your insight and story on your journey now than to dwell on that, because for me personally, all that speculation, I don't have time for that. For what you're telling me and what you were doing to honor a young person and to safeguard them, that deserves to be honored. So although I don't know all the details and I wasn't there from what you're telling me, I didn't want to give airtime to that story. I wanted to honor where you are now. I wanted to lift up the fact that you are very vocal and honest about needing mental health support, not just for you, but as educators of color, that it's something that we have to do.
Yeah.
And so is there anything you want to say to your fellow Black male or Black female educators before we go?
Yeah, don't be afraid to reach out for help.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to want to do things your way. And it's a lot of people out there that share your story.
Yeah.
I've started to recently learn that. I've been like hesitant to share my story with people because I've been afraid to like be dissected by a therapist and things like that. And also with like my religion, I don't really want to talk to somebody in that light that's not living the lifestyle that I'm living.
Yeah.
So it's a journey. And I mean, our opportunities and like things have been, the goalposts have been moved for us the second we was born.
Yeah.
So embrace it. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like don't shy away from it. Continue to be yourself. Continue to be your authentic self. Be unapologetically Black if that's what you choose to be. Be pro-Black. Support your people. Like my hoodie right now is made by a Black male teacher.
Oh, dope.
Mm-hmm. It's
Following Greatness.
Following Greatness. Yep.
Okay.
And yes, I want that to be lived out in like everything that I do. Like I want that to be my legacy.
Yeah. And you know what it makes me think of? I forget who said it, but the essence of the quote is regret for the things we do in life. Like in time, we heal from it. But it's the things we wish we would have done. Those are the things that haunt us.
For sure.
And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm sure in that situation, if you had not put yourself out there to protect the child by taking that thing from them that then put you in this situation, whatever would have happened or might have happened down the line, you probably wouldn't have been able to live with that. Yeah. And you're probably still going through the healing from what happened. But regret for the things we do in time, things will be healed. And so I just want to say too, before we go, we got to put some respect on our Black male educators' name, like put respect on it. And we need more educators like Mr. Woodson that are willing to go for broke, like James Baldwin said, go for broke for our young people. And sometimes it puts us on a path that's not one that we expected, that is not one that feels just or right. But if we're doing the right thing, then that's something that always can bring us to at least peace in heart and mind. And so I want to thank you for being unapologetically Black. I want to thank you for responding to a sister's DM because we didn't know each other at all until this encounter. And really just say that what you are inspiring in me for my professional journey is staying true to the course. Because if not for what I went through and what you went through, this moment right now doesn't happen. Because you might still be a kid, but I might still be wherever I was, and we wouldn't have this opportunity to be in sync. And so that wraps up episode 1 of Unapologetically Black with Mr. Woodson. And listen, y'all, episode 2 is with a beautiful, dope author. Her episode is going to be called Unbothered. If you want to know why she's unbothered, you'll have to tune in to see. But this is Mr. Woodson. He was here. He pulled up to Sadie's all the way from Philly. You can follow him on IG at s.woodson with a double N. We can't say enough about him taking the commute to come here. We can't say enough about what he's doing to pour into our Black and brown babies in his authentic way. And lastly, I don't know, maybe we'll post it, maybe we won't, but we definitely going to work out a handshake. For sure. Sadie's handshake before he goes. And so you have just experienced an episode of Untenured. Speaking your truth can never go left because it's your right. And we'll see you next time.
I love that slogan.
Which one? Speaking your truth can never go left?
Yeah.
Because you're right. Oh, you do? Because